Hi, I'm Eric Hopkins, and I am the Associate Principal Timpanist and Percussionist. It all started in 8th grade when a friend and I were in this new class that my middle school had, and the first lesson was how to iron your clothes. And at that point we decided that we wanted to get out of that class, so we went down to the guidance counselor and asked her if we could switch classes, and she said, well, you can't just switch classes, you have to be passionate about another class. So we just looked at each other and we said, band, we want to be in band. And we got put in the 8th grade band with all these people that are playing instruments and know how to play. And so the band director, who actually ended up being my private teacher, and he's a percussionist, stuck us in the back and gave us a book and told us to learn how to read and play snare drum. And the rest is history. So in high school, I was in the marching band. We had a pretty competitive marching band, so it was kind of like we were cooler than the football team. And so that took a lot of time in high school, and then I ended up being drum major and did some drum corps in the summer. And everyone expected me to major in it in college, but I wasn't so sure myself. But I did finally choose to be a music education major, then change it to music performance in the end. Percussion is kind of like the cool kids, and timpani is a little bit more nerdy. And I think that arises because timpani is an earlier instrument than percussion. Composers started writing for it, I don't know, in the 18th century, whereas percussion is a newer thing. I mean, it really thrived in the 20th century. That's when you really start to have instruments other than just triangle and snare drum and bass drum and crash cymbals. It's been fun to play both percussion and timpani for different reasons. Timpani has a unique role because it doesn't have just one role. It can be percussive, it can be melodic, and it can be harmonic. The main challenge for me is to emulate the instruments or the instrument families I'm playing with. So I want to play with the bass pizzicatos. How do I create that sound like I'm a buoyant string? Or I'm playing with the horns. How do I get that brassy attack that they have? Or I'm playing a sustained soft roll. How do I make it really sing? In contemporary music, you get composers writing glissandi for timpani. And so since timpani now have pedals that allow you to change the pitch quickly, the sky's the limit with glissandi. There's a Christmas song that has a glissando on this bottom drum, and it's supposed to create the sound of like a winter storm. So you can see there's a lot of different mallets to use. I've got a whole briefcase here of mallets. There are different colors, literally, and they create different sound colors. This is kind of a general mallet. Here's a slightly harder mallet. Here's a slightly heavier and harder mallet. Leather. This one's from Germany. Similar. Wood. So lots of different sound color options. Another special effect that you can get is hitting the drum in the center. George Gershwin's An American in Paris calls for this in one section. You end up getting this type of sound. Versus on the edge. The orchestra is fortunate to own a separate set of Baroque timpani. The idea being that it's a drier sound and it's a smaller sound and just a different sound. We use these for Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and other early composers. It sounds like this. So these drums don't have a pedal, they just have this crank. So it's slower going, but a different process. I'll play the Concerto for Seven Winds by Martin. This excerpt was on the final round of my audition here.